Hey there, welcome back to this week's episode of the C-Town Podcast, where Seattle business owners, entrepreneurs, and community leaders are invited on to share their stories with us. I'm your host, Christian Harris. This week's episode of the C-Town Podcast is brought to you by C-Town Real Estate. Their mission to make a difference extends beyond just their unique and unconventional approach with their clients and their agents. They partner with the community to give back a percentage of the proceeds from each home sale to a local nonprofit of their client's choice. Visit ctown.com, sea-town.com, and experience the difference with C-Town Real Estate today. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the C-Town Podcast. Today I sit down with Marty Hartman, the Executive Director of Mary's Place. If you recall, we met at the Seattle Metro Chamber of Commerce Business Issues Forum, I think last month or the month before, on the panel with Jeff Lilly, who's the president of Union Gospel Mission. The topics that we were talking about was homelessness, the homelessness crisis, and affordability housing in Seattle. Those are both things I'm passionate about, being community-minded and then, with owning a real estate brokerage. Now, maybe you could tell us a little bit about Mary's Place and, what, really how Mary's Place, came to be and what they do and stuff. Yeah, I've been aware of Mary's Place for a while. We've been surveying with our church at the newer location down in White Center, and I just love what you guys do. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about Mary's Place?
Sure. Thank you for having me. So Mary's Place essentially is standing in the gap from the moment a family loses their home and until they find a new permanent housing solution. We recognize that homelessness is nothing more than a housing crisis. We work with amazing families. We have 680 beds every night spread across King County. And we live in underutilized or buildings that are slated for redevelopment.
Okay.
So we borrow buildings and we call them home for now.
Sure.
We are in, like you said, in White Center in the Public Health Department, former Public Health Department building. We are in Kenmore in a county-owned building that was sitting vacant for 5 years. That's a former sheriff's station.
Okay.
We're in a little restaurant in Shoreline from a private donor. We're in a hotel downtown that holds 300 family members, a gift from Amazon.
Nice.
We are in a basement of a church, a Gethsemane Lutheran Church,
Mm-hmm.
but our role is to go in and transform these buildings while they're being slated for redevelopment, and we can live in them. We call them home for now, sure. And we open up and we offer families shelter, safety, stability, and resources to help them move forward out of their housing crisis.
Okay, that's great. I mean, one of the things that kind of caught my eye about Mary's Place is that it seems like a lot of the shelters are either like men only or women only, and if you have kids or a family, like it's really hard to find help with when it comes to that. So, and I know you guys are one of the few places that allows guys and families together, providing that there's a kid. Can you tell us a little bit about that kind of unique?
Sure. Mary's Place has always been about being able to reduce barriers so that people can access shelter as quickly as possible. Over time, we've grown in the last 5 years, we've grown from 7,000 bed nights a year to last year in 2017, we did 175,000 bed nights. Wow. So that shows the rapid rate of our growth, just trying to respond to the need. But also in trying to respond to that need, we've done what you've said. We take in single moms with kids, we take in single dads with kids, two-parent families, multi-generational families. We take in families with pets, recognizing that nobody wants to give up their cat or their dog to come inside the shelter. Sure. And so that can be traumatic as well. So why not? Just bring them all in, yeah. Right? It's home for now.
Yeah, that's awesome. What are the origins of Mary's Place? I mean, how did this organization come to be? Can you tell us a little backstory on that?
You bet. We got started as Mary's Place in 1999, running a women's day center. Essentially, I was hired at that time to reach out to the community of single women at that time, single homeless women, and to ask them what it is that they need. And essentially, they said, we wanted to be Fred Meyers. What's on your list today? We want to go to one place and be able to check it off. Sure. Because everybody knows we're homeless. We have to go everywhere with our bags, and you recognize it's almost 20 years ago. We went everywhere with our bags on our back. But more importantly, what we were packing in there was our grief, our pain, the trauma that we've endured, the loss of our children, the broken relationships. And we wanted to have a safe place to come in and to heal from that, so that when we do move into housing, we'll be able to keep it and we will feel safe. And so that's essentially what we did. We worked with the ladies to come up with a schedule and of things that they wanted and who they wanted in that site. And so we connected with now, over the years, hundreds of providers have come through and offered services on site. Okay. So, and not only meals and laundry and shower and access to phone and access to medical resources and employment resources and housing resources. But yet we still also make sure that we do those groups on sexual abuse and boundaries and hearing no and saying no and staying safe and making sure that they have those needs met too. But I have to tell you, the first decade, we rarely saw a child. Really? There was enough shelter for children up into 2010. I think the recession hit late here, and we started seeing moms with kids come in at a rapid rate. Simply broke our hearts. At the end of the day, it didn't matter if it was a mom with a newborn, a mom with 3 toddlers, a mom with 2 teenagers trying to graduate from high school. We had nowhere to send them. And we essentially went to the city of Seattle and said, help us. We need a place to send these families. And they're like, we don't have one. And there's no funding to help. And so then that's when we reached out to our community. And we said, can you help us? Yeah. And they did.
The initial location, was that downtown Seattle or back in 1999?
Yes, we were at 5th and Columbia back then. We've moved quite a bit. We borrowed that building too. We borrowed the basement. Then it was the basement of the First United Methodist Church. We'd moved since then several times. Yeah. But
that's awesome. Now I know that that gift from Amazon with the big space downtown. That must have been a huge blessing. How did that come to be?
When the crisis hit and they declared a state of emergency here on homelessness, Amazon wanted to respond and help their neighbors. And so they reached out and said, hey, we happen to have this building. Is this something that you could use to shelter families? And it was a hotel. We were like, that would be amazing. It was like deluxe shelter, something we had never expected. And so we moved into that building, and it was the Travel Lodge. And then that was slated for redevelopment, which we knew, but then they offered us another hotel across the street that they had purchased, which was the former Days Inn. So we are currently at the former Days Inn building, and 300 family members reside in there, and kids, at least almost 200 are kids going to school every day, and childcare, and parents are going off to work, and everyone's getting their meals, and they have their own showers. It's pretty phenomenal.
Sure, that's amazing. That's awesome. I love that. Now you were involved pretty early on. How did you get involved? What's kind of your story? Why is that something that's important to you?
I think I grew up, I moved all the time myself. I moved, I think, 16 times before I was in 6th grade, and had always wanted that sense of stability too for myself, and a sense of belonging and a sense of community was so important, and I knew how important it was. And I wanted to make sure all of my neighbors had that. And I was going to a church at the time that had a shelter in the basement, and it was struggling. And we simply thought we were doing a great job, and we were kind of patted ourselves on the back and said, yeah, look at us. We, that's how we defined ourselves, was opening up our church to homeless women. It was struggling, and the church just was at odds on how to keep it going, and so they decided to close it. And at that time, I had 4 young kids, but my husband and I just said, what is it? Is there something we can do better or different to see if we can get that started again? And so we did, and that shelter is still going. It's over 24 years later, but we worked together with the agency at the time, and what we figured out is we were missing the boat. It was all about relationship. And once we started engaging the guests that were in the shelter space, we learned about them. They became family. We started inviting them to events. People started volunteering to drive them back and forth downtown. And from there, that was just the most critical learning experience, is that, it's really relationships that change lives. Yeah. It's the only thing that ever has or ever will. Yeah. And we were missing that. And so when the opportunity came to start Mary's Place, I applied for the job and took those lessons I learned. How can I bring relationship? How can I bring a sense of community? Not for just those experiencing homelessness, but how can I bring the community in so that it feels like we are one family, that we know all of our neighbors, that we care about all of our neighbors, and give this vehicle for people to love and be loved.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And it's one of the things I love about talking with you and talking with Jeff, from Union Gospel Mission, just kind of that message of realizing that change is going to happen through the relationships, through the community coming in, loving people. Yes, you need to provide physical needs, but just providing for those needs, is kind of a temporary solution. If you're not dealing with underlying trauma and needs and emotions and relationships, that's great.
Yeah. And it's no different from each of us, right?
Exactly.
We need
all
some
need
place
that,
to
yeah.
land, some place to share, some place to help somebody else carry our burdens. We can't do it by ourselves all the time. And really, when you're working with single moms and single dads and multi-generational families that have been displaced, you see that need.
Yeah. When you took the job as executive director of Mary's Place, what do you find to be the most challenging aspect of that role?
When I took it, it was about trying to find a permanent home for us, or a place to call home. We were losing our home at that time in the building that we had been in for several years. And so I think that kind of started us on this journey of we kind of stumbled into this, call it home for now, and that's good enough, but keep looking for the next building. So I think that's been one of the biggest challenges, is always making sure that we have a stable place to operate. And then the biggest challenge, I think, was it was right at the time that the families were coming that I took this job. And this is the heart-wrenching feeling every night that these children are locked outside, and that as a community, we can do better or different, and that it's a choice we're making to keep them locked out. It doesn't have to be this way, and it's not this way across the nation.
Yeah.
Most states in this nation make sure children are inside at night and are safe and secure and together with their families, and they don't criminalize their families, or their parents aren't bad parents. And sometimes I think we get caught up in that really, essentially, why do we let it happen? And that's pretty much my greatest struggle every day, is making sure that doesn't have to happen.
Sure.
No child should have to sleep outside.
Yeah. I mean, this may be kind of a silly question or obvious, but what do you find most rewarding about what you do?
Every day is a gift, and it's such a blessing to be able to be in relationship with these families and the women that we serve every day at our day center. They remind us every day what's important in life. It's relationships, it's not things. And how can we continue to bring people together? And I think that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
It's like every day you get to meet new people wanting to help, wanting to contribute, wanting to make somebody's life richer, deeper, better. And what they find out is when they do that, their own lives get so much better.
Sure. What, you've been doing this for some time now. Did you kind of have like an aha moment, or like something you found to be kind of surprising or unexpected?
Sure. I always, I think you always dream that it will be the community that will come together to solve this. And it wasn't until we hit our own state of homelessness that we didn't know where Mary's Place was going to go, where they were going to land. We had lost our house too. That I think the aha moment was, I've got to start asking for my needs to be met. And if I don't ask, we're not going to, these families aren't going to have a place, these women aren't going to have a place. And so I think that was the aha moment for me, that we have to give vehicles or ways for the community to engage.
Yeah.
And if it fits for you, that's great. But if not, let's find something that does, because everybody has something that they can give and share to love and help their neighbor. So that was my moment. And so ever since then, it was like, start asking for buildings, start asking for, diapers or wipes, or start asking for people to come in and sit beside our guests and hear their stories.
Sure.
And so that's where we began to expand. And now we went from having no home to now we have 11 homes today.
That's great. I mean, speaking of asking when you're in need or your people are in need, what's the main funding source? How do you guys raise money? And
Ours is primarily private funding, individuals, corporations, congregations, grants and foundations, and then we have a small percentage of government money for one building in North Seattle.
Okay. One of the real estate groups I'm part of called Geek Estates, based out of here. I know the founder Drew Myers is really passionate about Mary's Place, and so he's kind of a tech guy, and so he started I believe it's called Horizon. It's like a home sharing app, but designed for like tight knit communities as opposed to like Airbnb. It's open to the general public, and so he has a special deal where basically like you buy a night, you give a night, and it's to raise money for Mary's Place, and we kind of connected over not only being in real estate but over the philanthropy and community involvement and stuff. But I love seeing other people that see the value of what Mary's Place is doing and the need. I mean, kind of speaking of the need, I mean, this may be kind of controversial, but we'll see. I mean, what's kind of your take of being in the trenches, with people in need and with housing and stuff, and kind of the political climate in Seattle and like the new head tax and kind of some of that stuff. Obviously, there's good intentions and there's a need. It seems like private and nonprofits do a pretty good job at meeting that need. But obviously there could be a partnership with the government to help meet that. What's kind of your take on that and what that partnership would look like or is most effective?
I think Mary's Place has always believed that we're so much better together, that it won't be one government or city, one county. It won't be one nonprofit. It won't be one corporation or one foundation that's going to solve this. It's all of us coming together to say, what is it that we can do and bring to the table? How can we remain in relationship, even though we may disagree over some things, but how can we remain in relationship to solve this problem? Because it's perfectly possible, doable. We know that we could end family homelessness very quickly.
Sure.
We know that there's a finite number of families on the list. Yes, there's always more families coming in, but if you are doing your job correctly and managing the list in a kind of in a prioritized way and getting these families moving forward, offering them the resources, these families are incredibly resilient.
Sure.
97% of homeless families are homeless one time in their whole life. This is that moment. And help them through that. This is the sick kid that you didn't plan on. This is the child with chemo or dialysis that's sleeping in the car because their families have sacrificed everything to get that kid well. This is the newborn baby that was born at 28 weeks. You gave up everything. You gave up your job, your 401k, you gave up your vacation, you gave up your health care, all to get your baby well and to be with them. And so then you end up moving into your car.
Yeah.
And so we can do better by that. And these families are hardworking. The 70% of them come to us working. Most of them are two parents working, trying to go back and forth to the kid in the car.
Yeah.
So let's take them out of that situation. Let's give them that sense of stability and wrap them with resources to say, all right, this is a housing crisis. We're going to resolve that housing crisis. And we do that by resolving your barriers and we're moving forward.
Sure.
So let's just get it done. And as a community, what can you offer? What is it that you can do? What is it your business can do? What is it the city can do to say, hey, let's come together. Let's figure out what's the most cost-effective, efficient way to do this, operate this, and move these families on into housing. We're doing it. We piloted a program called Diversion last year.
Okay.
It was new. We knew we didn't have enough shelter space. We have 680 beds, still not enough. But what we did was all those families calling in for shelter, we're going to go out and meet you where you are. We're asking you, where are you parked? Where's your tent at? And what will it take to move you into housing today? We're out there meeting with them directly, whether at the grocery store washing up, whether at the library we're meeting them, whether they're in the car, under the bridge. We're going and we're talking to them. And you know what? We moved 126 families out of their cars directly into permanent housing. It goes to show you that they already have the resources, that they have income, that they can afford housing. They just need somebody to assist them in making those connections.
Yeah.
That's what we're about. Let's do it. We can all do it together. There's landlords are needed, buildings are needed, funding is needed. There's a need for whatever people can bring together.
That's great. I love your optimism and your like no nonsense practical approach to solving this. Where do you think things are going? Where do you see the trends going? I mean, as far as obviously there's a need. Do you feel like that need's getting less as it's being solved, or do you feel like the rising price of housing is kind of pushing it to be a worse situation where there's going to be more housing need for families? What do you see happening?
I think we all see it, right? You can't go out of your home without seeing tents and belongings strewn up and down I-5, but what we know is it can be better and it can be different, but we can't be divided in our approach. We have to be nimble, we have to be efficient, we have to be able to create change quickly if things aren't working, and I think that's what we're trying to do here. But we need all resources to the table. We need all thoughts and all minds. We need to say, hey, let's do this. 2,000 families is not unmanageable.
Sure.
If you had a crisis, if you had a hurricane, if in Hawaii, I saw in the news today, the lava was coming down your street, where would you go? What would you do?
Yeah.
You'd help your neighbor. Mm-hmm. You'd invite them in. You'd open up your churches, your community centers. You'd say, let's do what we need to do to make sure you have what you need. And we need to be doing the same thing and treating this as the crisis that it is.
Yeah. I love that community approach. One of the things that Jeff said at that business forum that I felt kind of hit it home was he's talking about, this is a community issue. Like he said, there's a lot more of us, those people that have houses and resources than people who don't, and if we all dug in, like we'd be able to make a big difference, in the homelessness crisis. And
absolutely.
Yeah, it just
and we've got to get creative. We've got to be creative with our housing solutions. And it's not everyone's going to have their own apartment. Not everyone's going to be able to have their own home. Sure. But we can come, be creative together. Yeah. You've got the block project starting with, some homes in people's backyards that are seeming to work out well. They're all off grid. You've got so many, the app, a shared housing app. Yep. Those are things that we could utilize so that families could find each other and find like-minded families to move in and share housing together. Mm-hmm. What does it look like? But let's get creative here.
Yeah, I love that. What can our listeners do to help partner with Mary's Place and make a difference?
We would love that because, again, we go back to the relationship. If you want to come in and volunteer, do you want to bring your corporate team? Or do you want to help write resumes, fill out housing applications? Do you want to help our guests look up or do housing searches? Take off some of the no's from our families. Get on the phone and explain the family situation. Ask if the landlord's going to be willing to rent to them. Our families hear no all the time. But get on the phone and take some of those no's away. Maybe you'll find a yes, and then send that family out right away. We'll give them the bus tickets. We'll give them the transportation they need to get there. We'll work with them to get the holding fee for those apartments. You want to employ some of our families? We would love that. You need help at your restaurant or hotel or law firm, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Let us know. We have guests that are looking for work, and we would love to partner with you. You have, or somebody with available units. Maybe they don't want to put the cost into advertising. We have families ready and waiting. We'll only send you families that meet your screening criteria. We have an incredibly robust housing program that has locators that are out there always looking for properties. Met with over 500 landlords, just getting units that our families would qualify for. We send you that we only screen out families that will meet your criteria, meet your income. We send them to you. And then we have stabilizers that work with the family the entire time they're in your unit, and making sure that they're doing what you need to be doing. If they're not recycling and that cost you $80 last month, let us go out and do a recycling class. Sure. And we have mitigation funds in case there is some damage to the building. Landlords can call upon that. So let us work with you on those units that you might have available. And you want to come in and throw a birthday party? We have over 400 kids in shelter every day. They love to celebrate their birthday. Come throw a birthday party. Rock a baby so a mom can take a shower. We have newborns too. We would love you to do that. There's so many options and opportunities, but whatever it looks like for you, maybe you can't come in. Maybe you want to just do a diaper drive, or deodorant to luxury when you become homeless. Maybe in September you want to do back to school supplies. We need those too. We've got new kids going to school every day. But whatever it is you want to do, we want to engage you with, because we need you. We need you to care. We need you to meet your neighbor. We need you to love on your neighbor in whatever way that looks like for you.
Yeah. I love that. I love the passion. I love what Mary's Place is doing. Love what you and your team are doing. I really hope that some of our listeners, take action. Visit your website to kind of see. I assume that like the needs are on there and opportunities.
Yeah, volunteer opportunities. We always have a wish list. Sometimes you can even order just off of Amazon and have it dropped off to us. If we're out of wipies and you want to help, we're out of kids size 5 underwear, you want to send it, we would love that.
Awesome.
And yeah, our website is www.marysplaceseattle.org.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Marty. It was very encouraging to speak with you. I hope our listeners found it encouraging and informative as well. Yeah, thanks a lot for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me in. Have a great rest of your day.
All right, you too.
Thanks.
That wraps up this week's episode. Make sure to check out our guest website, pay them a visit, and help spread the word about what they are doing. If you have any questions, know someone who should be a guest on here, or has a great story worth sharing, email me at christianharris@seatown.com. That's sea-town.com. I would also love it if you would go to iTunes and give us a review and a nice 5-star rating. We work hard to bring on great guests and provide exceptional content, and getting a review from you is one way to help the podcast rank well in iTunes so others can find and enjoy the show. You can also find out more about me, how my real estate brokerage is breaking the mold and making a difference in our Seattle communities, and other projects I'm working on by visiting seatown.com, sea-town.com. Thanks for listening. The music for our podcast is courtesy of The Fascination Movement. You can find their albums in the iTunes Store. You can also listen to more episodes and find all our show notes on our website at seatownpodcast.com. This has been a Seatown Media production.